Hello everybody, my name is Jesse. Welcome to my channel where all I talk about is domain format. If you don't know what domain format is, you can watch this how to play video. You can get caught up and learn how to play this awesome format with your friends. I am here because we are getting a new set soon called Maze of the Master. And with the new set comes new toys for a bunch of decks people are building. One of the best things about domain format, in my opinion, is some of the most exciting cards from the set can be pack filler in the set, but awesome pieces to use in a domain deck. Every set, I'm always excited about one thing or another, and this set is no different. Since we got the complete spoiler list, let's go ahead and go over the set right now. But first, there's a few ways you guys can support me. If you guys watch this video, get some ideas for a domain deck and start buying some singles on TCG Player, you can use my TCG Player affiliate link down below. Doesn't charge you nothing, just lets them know I sent you and I get a kickback at no charge to you. I stream on Twitch and YouTube. You guys can follow me there, subscribe, become a member. Those are a great time to catch me and ask me whatever questions you got. I also have a store, an Etsy store down below. I sell mats and hoodies. I especially like my Blue Eyes mat. It's pretty cool. But the best way to support me is completely free. You can just like the video, tell your friends about it, maybe comment down below about which card you're most excited about from the set. It helps let YouTube know that my video is worth sharing with other people, and the more people learn about domain, the better. But with that said, let's get started. Okay, Maze of the Master is what we're looking at today. If you don't know, the biggest draw, and I guess the first set of cards we'll talk about, is the Odion support. Yes, I'm sure most of you know already, but for those of you who don't, Odion's famous for using continuous trap cards that summon themselves as monsters, along with the old school continuous spell called Temple of the Kings and Divine Beast Circuit. But we're not here to talk about the old cards, we're here to talk about the new cards, so let's go over them. First up, the man with the mark, arguably Odion himself. He's an Earth spellcaster, and when he's normal or specialed, you can take a Temple of the Kings or a spell trap that mentions it from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. We got a nice Stratos here. On first thought, he seems like a good deck master, but we'll see if everything fits in its domain. He's also got a nice effect. While you control Temple of the Kings, this card and Apophis monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Temple of the Kings you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. Guess what? Heavy Storm, Dark Hole, Raigeki, Feather Duster is going to be protecting a lot of your cards from those very common cards played in domain format. I like this guy a lot. The only downside is he, if you normal summon it, he'll be in attack position and won't be able to be destroyed by battle, so everybody's going to be able to have a chance to wail on him. But let's see what else we got. We got what looks like a Circuit retrain Merciless Scorpion of Circuit. Earth Fairy, level 6, 25 attack, 2000 defense. Can't be normal summon set, must be special summoned from your hand by banishing a level 10 or higher monster from your hand or deck while you control Temple of the Kings. Built-in summon, you can banish a monster from the deck, so that's pretty nice. You can only special once per turn this way, and once per turn during the main phase, so it's an ignition effect. You can add a Temple of the Kings or one spell that mentions it from your deck to your hand. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can destroy that monster, and if you do, this card gains attack equal to half the destroyed monster's original attack. It's like a beefed up Circuit, because the original Circuit, like when it destroyed a monster by battle, it banished it and gained 500 attack. Not too shabby though, to be honest. This card looks so cool. I remember being awestruck when they first revealed the art before they showed the card effect. Anubis, the Last Judge, level 10 Earth Fiend effect. 3000 attack, 0 defense. Can't be normal summon set, must first be special summoned from your hand or graveyard while you have 3 or more cards in your graveyard with different names that are Temple of the Kings and or traps by placing 2 of them on the bottom of your deck in any order. It's quite a mouthful, but since we're going to be playing so many continuous trap cards that summon themselves as monsters, he's essentially going to be recycling your trap monsters. But built-in summon, quite nice. I like that. You send this card from your hand or graveyard, add a Man with a Mark from your deck to your hand. If we're going to play Man with the Mark as our deck master, that's not that big of a deal. But it is nice that he can special summon himself from the graveyard. If a spell or trap you control is destroyed by card effects, you can target one card your opponent controls, destroy it. So I guess even though our Temple of the Kings and Apophis monsters will be protected by the Man with the Mark, whenever anything else gets destroyed, we'll get to be able to pop other cards for it. I like him quite a bit. He does a lot of things that I like. Inherent Summon, recycles cards, can be summoned from graveyard too, which is pretty nice. Lets him recycle more cards and can probably pop some cards. I like him quite a bit. So if you don't know, the original Temple of the Kings could send itself plus the original Circuit to the graveyard to special summon a monster from your deck or a fusion monster from your fusion deck back then. So I'm not surprised to see that they're getting fusion monsters, but I was even more surprised after reading them. Level 6 Earth Reptile, 2800 attack, 2600 defense. The materials are 2 monsters that mention Temple of the Kings. It must be fusion summoned or special summoned by attributing 2 Apophis monsters. Now, if you don't know, before this set, there was 2 Apophis monsters. We're getting a 3rd one. With the way the deck works, I think it'll be more than likely in all of our openers, we'll be able to get to 2 Apophis monsters. So I think it's gonna be pretty easy to summon this guy. Once per turn, you can can target up to 3 Apophis traps with different names. So it says up to 3. Doesn't have to be 3, which is nice. In your graveyard, set them. This guy's like a freaking Rescue Ace Turbulence for the trap deck. The monsters you just used to special it can be set again with him. And then once per turn, if a trap card is activated, kind of crazy that it doesn't have to be your trap from the way it reads. You can target 1 card your opponent controls to destroy it. So after setting them, you can get more advantage by activating them with his pop. Very cool. I thought this was a great designed card. And I think it happens to be quite good in Domain. We got a second fusion monster, a Divine Scorpion Beast of Circuit, Earth Fairy, 3000 attack, 2000 defense. It takes a Circuit monster and a monster with 2500 or less attack. If it's special summoned or at the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls or in their graveyard, banish it. If you do, this card gains attack equal to half the banished monster's original attack. You can use this effect of Circuit once per turn. You can make a second attack during each battle phase while a level 10 or higher monster is banished. Now, we were looking at Merciless Scorpion of Circuit earlier. This can't special itself by banishing a level 10. So it kind of, through the combo, you'll be banishing a level 10. Getting 1 attack for 3000 and then getting another attack for a whole lot more. So when this is summoned, you'll banish something and get a decent attack buff and be able to attack twice. This guy's gonna be able to put out a lot of damage. He's not too exciting though, because he doesn't have much interaction other than just being a good attacker. I guess it could be a super poly target using your own Circuit monster and one of your opponent's monsters. We got a field spell, let's go. Once activated, add an Apophis trap from your deck. Oh, sorry, you can set an Apophis trap from your deck. Quite good, can't be ashed. This card's name becomes Temple of the Kings while in the field zone. Quite good as well. Once per turn, if you have 2 or more set cards on your field or a trap in your graveyard, you can add a monster that mentions Temple of the Kings from your deck to your hand. This card searches for 2 cards. You could get Apophis and then try and search for a second card. So if they end up bashing it, you're going to get value anyway because you get to set the Apophis trap. This card's awesome. It's a field spell that gets 2 cards. What else could you ask for? Defense of the Temple. Fusion summon an Earth fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field. So I guess that gives us a way to summon the 2 fusion monsters. If you use a monster you control that mentions Temple of the Kings, you can also use face-up monsters your opponent controls as material. So I guess that means you could use a Circuit plus one of your opponent's monsters with 2500 or less attack. So I guess they kind of have a built-in super poly. If you control Temple of the Kings, you can banish this card from your graveyard, add a Dangers of the Divine from your deck to your hand. Let's see what that does. Quick play spell, pay half your life. I don't like doing that. Then tribute a monster, special summon a Winged Dragon of Ra from your hand or banishment, ignoring its summon conditions, and make his attack defense 4000, but cannot attack. Also during the end phase of the next turn, return to the hand. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, choose a Winged Dragon of Ra in your monster zone and send all other monsters on the field to the graveyard. Man, I have conflicting feelings about this card. The one thing that I avoid at all costs in Domain is paying half my life points. I just don't like doing it. Obviously, unless I was playing like Dinomorphia or something. And the cool thing is, this is all quite built in as far like, you think, how are you going to banish Winged Dragon Raw? Well, that's how the Scorpion does that. And it's like, how are you going to get this? Well, this grabs it. It seems quite streamlined and I like that about it, but man, I do not like paying half my life points. And it returns to your hand during the next end phase of the turn, or the end phase of the next turn, not your end phase. So in Domain, you could activate that on the player after you summon Ra. And then on the second player's turn, it'll return to your hand. And then the third player's turn, you're like wide open. I don't know, man. Seems iffy to me. I guess the fact that it sends all monsters and not all cards on the field would mean you would still have all the trap monsters to defend yourself with, hopefully. But I don't know, man. This one I'm iffy about. Verdict of Anubis. When your opponent activates a spell or trap card while you control 3 or more other spell traps, negate the activation. If you do, destroy that card. Then if you control Temple, you can destroy as many monsters as your opponent controls as possible, then inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the attack of those destroyed monsters. Whoa. Having 3 spell or traps at the same time is kind of hard, except in obviously this deck, because the monsters that you summon as trap monsters, they're still traps. Because I'm not sure if having face down set cards would count as controlling a spell or trap. I think they'd have to be face up. So this seems like quite difficult to activate outside of this deck, which is nice because being able to negate any spell trap and then also destroying all your opponent's monsters and burning them for a crap ton. This is a crazy counter. And it does mention Temple of the King, so that's relevant. Good card. Call back to the Curse of Anubis, I think. All right, we got a new Apophis monster. Continuous trap. You can special this card as a normal monster, 16/18, still a trap. Then you can set an Apophis trap from your deck. Except itself. It can be activated that turn. If this card's sent to the graveyard, you can add an embodiment of Apophis from your deck to your hand. Man, this one card searches for the other 2 Apophis cards we could possibly play. Really good. Okay, those are all the new Odion cards. I put together an Odion deck list for Domain. This isn't a full deck list yet, but it was basically what I scrounged up as far as like what I would want to play at minimum. The rest of the deck you can fill with whatever you would like on, obviously, but the Man with the Mark is a pretty good deck master for the deck. He is a Stratos-esque effect, and honestly, I really like his protection against board wipes for your Apophis monsters and himself, and your Temple of the Kings. Not too shabby, honestly. So we have all the brand new cards, except for the one that summons the Raw. I don't want to pay half my life points, man. I'm sorry. You can throw it in if you want, but I don't want to play it. Some pretty cool support for this deck is there's a lot of trap monsters that summon themselves. So I jam-packed a lot of the ones that I liked quite a bit, seemed useful the most anyway. I really wanted to talk about That's 10. While this is face up, each time a card or effect is activated, except itself, you can put a counter on it, and monsters you control gain 100 attack for each counter on it. If the 10th counter is placed on it, you can return it to the hand, set from your deck one continuous trap that special summons itself as a monster. It can be activated this turn. So this can search for any of your continuous trap cards. And there's one that's supposed to go with it. It's called You're Finished. If 10 or more cards or effects have been activated this turn, special summon this as a 3000 Cypress monster, but set it in your spell and trap zone during the end phase. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect while this card's in your monster zone, you can destroy as many cards your opponent controls as possible. Then set this card. So it's kind of like a weird Nibiru, where like once you get to 5 summons with Nibiru, you can summon it and sack the whole board. If while this is face up after they've you can only activate this when 10 or more cards have been activated. 10 or more cards or effects, I should say. And after it's face up, if they activate one more thing, you can just clear their whole board. You just wipe out their whole board. So obviously they're going to completely stop, right? And then you get to set it again to threaten the next player. Kind of a wacky card. I like it. Kuibiko is an interesting one. While it's already face up, when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field that targets a card you control, you can set this back into your spell and trap zone. If you do negate that effect, then if that monster has the highest attack on the field, return it to the hand. So this can be activated, set, a whole bunch in a game. I like it quite a bit. Along with Silo Hat Trick is a newer one. It can summon itself and negate, and it's an illusion, so it can't destroy or be destroyed by battle. Unfortunately, we can't play Silo Hat Rabbit. It's a light illusion, doesn't fit in the domain, but it would be an awesome addition if we could. Pharaonic Advent, I heavily considered this being the deck master. He has access to Dark, Spellcaster, Reptile, Fairy, Fiend. That's a lot of that's a lot of cards. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a built-in summon. He has an activated effect that summons itself, which can't be activated in the Deckmaster zone. But he gains 300 attack for each continuous trap on the field and the graveyard. He's got a base 2000 attack, so he can get huge. One really cool effect he has is you contribute one monster, special summon himself from your hand, so he's easily summonable once we draw him. And then we contribute a Fairy, Fiend, or Reptile, which is basically all of our trap monsters. Add a continuous trap from your deck to your hand, and then you can't special summon for the rest of the turn. But it seems quite useful in a deck where we're playing nothing but continuous traps. Cardan, the Clear-Sided, can set a continuous trap from our graveyard or our hand, and it can be activated this turn. I was looking for something that could possibly be mixed with the Man with the Mark. He's an Earth spellcaster, and there's quite a lot of things you could do. You could do Vernisylphs. Those basically are all like monster reborns attached to Earth monsters. They're basically they all say discard a card, special summon an Earth from the graveyard, and do something else. And their boss monster is quite good. It has a negate on resolution, so it doesn't activate. It's pretty nasty, to be honest, but they all work quite well with basically any Earth type monsters and their fairies. Not that matters for this deck, but I was originally thinking about that. Since I noticed he's Earth, I mainly wanted to try out Argo Stars. Now, if you don't know, Argo Stars we're getting a second one soon. They're both Earth warriors. Essentially, they facilitate these 3 continuous traps that can continuously summon themselves and then set themselves face up in the spell and trap zone to activate to summon again. And every time you summon one of them, they do something different. The field spell can recycle our banished Argo Star cards, which these banish themselves. And each time a continuous trap in the spell and trap zone is special summoned to your field, inflict 500 damage to your opponents. And this is a continuous effect, so it would inflict 500 to each of your opponents. Kind of crazy over the course of the game if you can do a bunch of summoning from the spell and trap zone. So there's a Rhoda in here to help search for them. And then since we're going to be going between, these two field spells, I added in Multiverse. I just like it. You could add in more field spells like Chicken Game or whatever way where there's a will. I personally love this card. And then the extra deck, there's the two extra deck monsters from the the series. And then just some Earth stuff. Red Eyes Dragoon is in here in case we somehow get to activate Temple of the Kings and special summon a fusion monster from our extra deck. You could also play Last Warrior of Another Planet because he's Earth, but that's really mean. A lot of these traps are level 4, so there's a couple level 4s here, and Celine because he is a spellcaster, and maybe there'll be a situation where you want to special summon him twice. If you did want to go more into spellcasters, there's still a little bit of room here. You could try Gravekeepers. That's also old Egypt themed. Not too much interaction with the summoning trap monsters thing, but they are spellcasters. They're a little bit on theme. There's all kinds of spellcasters you could go into, really. So even though there's a little bit of space here left, you could add all kinds of, fillers. Pot of Greed, Grace of Charity, Heavy Storm, blah, 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 all that stuff. I'll leave this link down below if you want to check it out. The next archetype I'm really excited to talk about is new XYZ support. Not XYZ monsters, but like XYZ Dragon Cannon, the old Machine Union monsters that Kaiba played. This works pretty similarly to the original XYZ Dragon Cannon, but with a lot of quality of life updates. It takes specifically X Cross Cannon, Y Dragon Yara Head, and 7 Zillion Tank, or Z Zillion Tank, and you can't special summon it by, or must first be special summoned by banishing the above cards from your field and or graveyard. Very nice. And it does say banishing the above cards from your field and or graveyard. So I believe they can banish themselves while one of them is unioned to another one, or while they're in your graveyard after you've already used them for fusion material or something. Once per opponent's turn, quick effect, you can discard a card, then target one card your opponent controls and destroy it. This goes great with Ebon Sun. With Ebon Sun, it says whenever you discard a card, if it's a spell, you can add it back to your hand. So you could have infinite discard fodder for the Dragon Cannon. Now, the last effect, unfortunately, is not as good as we would like it to be. It says you can banish this card from your field and or graveyard and reveal a level 8 Light Machine Fusion monster in your extra deck. Special summon up to 3 of the materials whose names are mentioned on that monster from your graveyard and or banishment. Now, in regular advanced, you would activate this in the graveyard, reveal another one in your extra deck, and summon all 3 of those pieces back to the field from graveyard or banish. So it completely recycles everything back into play at the cost of having a copy in the extra deck. We can't do that in Domain, but you could still reveal the original XYZ Dragon Cannon to summon the original pieces from banishment or graveyard back to play, which would then let you allow you to do more plays, hopefully, like either link climbing or go into the original XYZ Dragon Cannon. Either way, it's still really cool. I'm excited. Let's see what the new X, Y, and Z cards do. If you control a Light Fusion or Union, you can specialist them from your hand. Not a built-in summon, unfortunately. It's an activated effect. But during the main phase, you can equip it. You can equip one appropriate Light Machine Union monster from your deck to this card as if it were equipped by that monster's effect. And you can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except light monsters. So I think this is a pretty good choice for Deckmaster because then you can it doesn't have to equip one of these Union monsters. It can just be any Light Union monster. Light Machine Union monster, that is. So in a way, he kind of tutors the deck for unions. Also important to note that he's not a normal monster anymore, but he's also not a union either. If this is special summoned, you can equip a level 4 Light Machine monster from your hand or graveyard to this card, and then it locks you out. Once per turn, and then it has the union, can summon itself or attach itself, and it protects the monster that it is equipped to. Z Zillion Tank. If special summoned, you can equip one of your banished level 4 Light Machine monsters to this card. It doesn't have to be a union, which is interesting. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of this turn except it's light monsters. And it has the typical union text. The extra deck monster here is amazing support for both XYZ strategies. It takes a Light Machine monster and a Y Dragon Head or Z Zillion Tank, and you can banish the above cards you control. So it can be any Light Machine monster plus the Y or the new Y or Z Union monster. And again, I'm pretty sure they can be attached by Union, and you can use those 2 monsters to summon this because it says the above cards you control. But if this card's special summoned from the extra deck, you can add 1 spell trap from your deck to your hand that mentions Union monster in its text. Amazing support for Union monster strategies. And then once per turn during your main phase, you can special summon a Light Machine normal or Union monster from your hand. This is a great card. Great callback. 5 out of 5. Love it. This card I'm especially hyped for because it does one thing I love doing, which is recycling. But it says when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can draw cards equal to the number of level 8 or higher Light Machine Fusion monsters you control, which can be the old XYZ Cannon, the new XYZ Cannon, and ABC, if you remember him. You'll most likely just be drawing 1 card off of this though. But during your standby phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, shuffle up to 6 of your banished Light Machine monsters into the deck, including a Union monster. I love it. It's got ABC and XYZ. Great great card in my opinion. Union activation. You can send a light machine normal monster or union monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard. And if you do, add a light machine monster with the same attack but different original name from your deck to your hand. This can, I assume, let you go from the old XYZ guys to the new ones. And then it says if you special summon 3 light machine monsters at the same time while this card's in your graveyard, you can banish this card, add a monster with 3,000 or more attack from your deck to your hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon it. I do not know what that monster is supposed to be. I don't know of a 3,000 attack monster in the deck that you want to tribute summon. I imagine this is supposed to be support for Obelisk. That's the best thing I can think of, because when you summon all 3 light machine monsters from the effects of ABC or the new XYZ, I don't think you'd want to tribute them for tribute summon. I think you would want to use them for, hopefully get back out ABC drag the ABC fusion or the XYZ fusion. Either way, I think it's a cool card. If you guys are curious, I did make a domain deck with the updated new XYZ cards. They're all in here along with some more Union support, along with the old Union support. So if you want to check that out, the link will be down below as well. Personally, I love it when old archetypes that already have quite a bit of cards get even more cards. Trickstar is one that I was planning on looking into later, but here we have an extender. If you have a link or fusion out, if it's sent to the graveyard as material for a Trickstar link monster, you can add a Trickstar fusion or defusion from your deck to your hand. Aqua Angel is weird to me. I had no idea, or maybe I don't. Does anybody know how Trickstars and Marincess are connected? I have no idea. This is both a Trickstar and Marincess card, which is interesting because I'm not sure you could play them both in the same deck all that well, but who knows? I don't play Trickstars or Marincess. Link monsters that point to this card can't be destroyed by battle. You can only use each of the following effects once per duel. If you control Trickstar or Marincess, you can special this card from your hand or graveyard. If this card's sent to the graveyard as link material, you can look at all cards in your opponent's hand and all set cards they control. I don't know, very interesting card. This is that diffusion you could search for. You can either fusion summon, you can do a quick fusion summon by banishing materials from your graveyard, or do a quick link summon. And you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target a Trickstar monster you control this turn while that monster is face up on the field. Your opponent's monsters can only target that monster for attacks. I guess if you're going to get a new fusion, you might want a new fusion monster. Takes 2 Trickstars. Trickstar links you control that point to this card, gain 1,000. You can only use each of the following effects once per duel or once per turn. If this card's fusion summon, you can add a Trickstar card from your deck to your hand with a different name from the cards you control and or in your graveyard. If an effect damage is inflicted, you can target one face-up monster on the field. This attack becomes 0. I think that's quite good for the deck because in my experience playing against Trickstar, they'd be able to do quite a bit of chip damage, but not defend themselves all that well. So I think this helps out a lot. Permanently changing something's attack to 0 is pretty good. Makes you a huge target in domain. Somebody can sneak in a lot of damage. Noble Angel, if it's link summoned, you can add a blue tiers card from your deck to your hand. If you have a fusion monster on your field or graveyard, you can target one Trickstar monster in your graveyard, special summon it. If effect damage is inflicted, you can target one face-up card on the field, destroy it. Again, more ways to help defend itself while it is chip damaging its opponent. Colchica, link 1. Link 1s were a mistake. When a monster is destroyed by battle involving your Trickstar monster, while this card's in your graveyard, you can banish this card, then target that destroyed monster, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's attack. Essentially a free way, because like you would just summon a Trickstar, link into this, and then continue making your Trickstar plays, and then while it's in the graveyard, this is gonna be a good chunk of damage. So Trickstar burn, doing even more burn. I did also make a Trickstar deck with the best of my knowledge. I picked Candina as the deck master. When it's normal summon, you can add a Trickstar card from your deck to your hand. Each time your opponent activates a spell trap card, inflict 200 damage immediately after resolve. So I figure she's probably the best starter. And because it's on normal summon specifically, added an ultimate offering and ultimate offering to help normal summon her more times on other turns. But all the Trickstars are in here, all the spells, a lot of ways of going in between the field spells at instant speed, metaverse, how did I get here, set rotation, and then on top of that I just put in what I thought a light fairy deck should have. Hand traps, kaijus. Mahama does damage, like a magic cylinder type card. Speaking of, I got magic cylinder here too. More hand traps, just generic good stuff in my opinion. And then in the extra deck, the only thing I put in there was a way to get to climb into Underworld Goddess with Moon of the Closed Heaven and Appaloosa. I've been including skill cards with my domain deck lists, by the way, not because they're part of the rule set for domain, but because I like skill cards. If you and your friends feel like playing with them, give them a try sometime. But this link will also be down below. One card I'm surprised to see here is more Ancient Gear support. It has a built-in summon if your opponent has more cards than it has a Cyber Dragon-esque built-in summon. And then you can distribute it to special summon any Ancient Gear Golem or one monster that mentions it, ignoring its summon conditions straight from your deck. That's crazy. This is so good. Ancient Gear players rejoice at your super cool new deck master. Now, one series of cards that are getting support in this, which I don't think is all that great in Domain, but I still think it's interesting as an engine. I've seen some pretty crazy combo videos with the new Allure Queen stuff. You're probably thinking, what the heck, Allure Queen? You mean these old level LV monsters that were slow and terrible and never saw play? Yeah, these monsters. So these are getting reprinted in the set because there's some Allure Queen support. No offense to Allure Queen fans, but these cards are terrible. It was just way too hard to level up into the next one. This new support is kind of nuts. When this card's activated, you can add a Allure Queen monster or one Allure Palace from your deck to your hand. We'll read Allure Palace next. Each Allure Queen monster you control gains attack equal to the attack of the monsters equipped to it by its own effect. You can send one other spell trap you control to the graveyard, special summon as many Allure Queens as possible with different names as possible from your deck. Sorry, I said that completely wrong. You can send one other spell trap you control to the graveyard, special summon as many Allure Queen monsters with different names as possible from your graveyard. You only use this effect once per turn. Well, okay, what's Allure Palace? It's a field spell, that's cool. Spellcasters you control gain 500 attack and defense. You can send one card from your hand to the graveyard, take one Allure Queen monster from your deck, either add it to your hand or special summon it to your opponent's field. You can only use this effect up to thrice per turn. Okay, and then it says Allure Queen effect monsters you control gain this effect. You can send this card equipped with a card by its own effect to the graveyard, special summon a spellcaster with 1500 or less attack from your hand or deck. I'm not gonna lie, man, when I was first reading this, I was like, what are these supposed to do? You could activate this, go get this, send a card, discard a card essentially, to take this Allure Queen. And because you can activate the effect 3 times, you could discard this Allure Queen to get this Allure Queen, and then discard this Allure Queen to go get either this Allure Queen or one of the older supports from Rage of the Abyss, Chaos Allure Queen. This card's pretty interesting. I saw some interesting combos with this. This can has an activated effect to discard a light or dark monster, special summon this from your hand. You can target one monster in either graveyard, equip it to this card as an equip spell, and if you do, this card's name becomes that equipped monster's name until the end of the turn. Then if you equip a light or dark monster by this effect, you can special summon a dark Allure Queen monster from your deck or graveyard. Oh my gosh, okay. So, we're chaining up to this for some reason, and this takes so many discards. I don't even know if it's like, I don't know, man. But let's say you equipped, this one equips from graveyard, by the way, not from the field. But let's say, you know, you get this, but let's say you dumped all those Allure Queens to the graveyard, and then you activate this, sending another card you control. So I guess, you know, something else other than this, I guess. Special summon all those Allure Queens out of the graveyard. You would then have 3 Allure Queens in play, right? 3 different Allure Queens. You could link summon this, which is also from Maze. Takes exactly 3 spellcaster monsters, so pretty rough on the summon condition. If it's link summoned, you can special summon a Allure Queen monster from your deck or graveyard, and if you do, this card gains 1500 attack until the end of the next turn. You can activate the effects that equip a monster to themselves of monsters with Allure Queen in their original names as quick effects. Okay, this Allure Queen has an ignition effect to equip a level 3 Allure monster on your opponent's side of the field to this card. This one has an effect to ignition effect to select a level 5 Allure monster and equip it. And this one has an ignition effect to equip any monster, but this one has to be special summoned with its level up ability. Sorry, this one and this one have to be summoned by their level up ability in order to activate those effects. But if this was in play, this is essentially like a DD Crow type effect while she's in play, because it'd be quick effect, I guess. But once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can destroy 1 card on the field. Also, Allure Queen monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects for the rest of the turn. I don't know, man. That's a lot of moving cards around for this, I guess. A quick effect DD Crow Allure Queen. If you still somehow have this in play, you could send this equipped with a monster to the graveyard to special summon any spellcaster with 1500 or less attack from your hand or deck. That's a lot of spinning wheels for this, but it is something you could do. Obviously, I think this is meant to be like a supportive engine for spellcasters. I don't know. That's my best guess. I've seen some pretty crazy combo videos though, to be honest. I don't. Your guess is as good as mine. Okay, very slowly but surely, it seems like there's zombie support every once in a while. These next cards happen to be both zombie and fiend support, which is interesting. But I like this guy quite a bit. It takes 2 fiend and or zombie monsters. Once per turn during your standby phase, pay 500 or destroy this card. Cannot be destroyed by battle. During main phase, you can immediately, after this effect resolves, normal summon 1 monster. Doesn't have to be a zombie or a fiend. And you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target a level 4 or higher fiend or zombie in your graveyard. Add it back to your hand. This card's pretty cool. Not gonna lie. I like it quite a bit. I'm a big fan of fusion summoning, so, and zombies. He also extends and he recycles. He can banish himself to recycle a fiend or a zombie. I think this card's really cool. I like it quite a bit. It got some other interesting fiend or zombie support. Spirit Illusion is a way to fusion summon the Duke. equip only to a level 5 or higher fiend or zombie. When an attack is declared involving the equipped monster and an opponent's monster, you can make that opponent's monster lose attack equal to the equipped monsters. So you're essentially always going to be able to run over whatever. And it's got 2 effects you can activate one of. Fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field, or special summon a doppelganger token with the same type, attribute, and attack as the equipped monster. Not gonna lie, probably wouldn't end up playing this. I don't think zombie decks need help fusion summoning, nor do I think fiend decks. I mean, maybe a fiend deck, I guess. I don't know. I would need to be convinced to play this card. This card, though. Once per battle, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can banish a fiend or zombie monster from your graveyard and negate the attack. There's a lot of zombies that activate upon being banished. This is quite good for zombies. Even fiends, like you could do the Necrofear stuff. The new Necrofear returns banished fiends to summon itself. It also says once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect that would destroy a card or cards, you can banish a fiend or a zombie from your graveyard and negate that activation. Again, there's a lot of zombies, and I imagine fiends that benefit off of being banished. Once per turn during the end phase, if you do not control a fiend or zombie, send this to the graveyard. Luckily, this guy is immune to battle destruction, so hopefully you'll be able to keep something around. But even if you're playing like it's not hard to keep something in play with zombies, but even with fiends, it's not difficult. The dark spirits that support Necrofear, this guy helps you keep fiends in play, like with the Necrofear strategy especially, along with Dark Spirit of Banishment. So I don't think it'll be too hard to keep this in play, but obviously it's something that I consider when playing this card. This is a new fiend specifically. It doesn't support zombies, but it is a new, hand trap essentially. When your opponent special summons a monster, you can discard this card and a spell, destroy that monster. You can only activate this once per turn. Now, obviously discarding a spell, I'm not sure if there's any fiend archetypes that benefit off of that. It's still not too shabby. I imagine, negging off of discarding this, you could find ways to plus with, like, say, Yugioh, because this is a fiend with 0 attack, 0 defense. But either way, I'm probably going to be considering this for fiend decks in the future. And then just as an aside, Perulia is getting reprinted, and Rediari. So believe it or not, this card was really expensive before because it only had 1 printing. I remember I was trying to build a Gladiator Beast deck, and I looked on TCG Player, and this card was like $25 or $30. I was like, no thanks. Sorry, I do not know what the Galaxy Eyes / Tachyon stuff does. I did not watch that anime series. If I gotta be honest, I'm most excited about Odion and XYZ Dragon Cannon. I can't wait to play both those decks again. I'm gonna build decks for Domain in real life for both those archetypes. But yeah, that was everything I wanted to say about Maze. I feel like I say this every single set release, but I'm always excited for a lot of the cards out of every new set. Even the dinky pack filler stuff, or the stuff that's like, I remember seeing a video from Paul from Team APS, not to like dog on him or anything. He obviously makes great content and thought-provoking discussions. He was saying he's kind of tired of how like TCG exclusive archetypes aren't all that good. Not to like put words in his mouth or anything, but it kind of seems like just because this Odion archetype is not as good as, say, Snake Eye or White Forest or Fiendsmith, Ryzeal, whatever, just because it's not that strong. Like, obviously, I mean, if everything was that strong, would anybody, I don't know, I just can't imagine what Yu-Gi-Oh would look like if the Odion deck was as good as Ryzeal. You know what I'm saying? At least not in the sense that like Ryzeal's up here, so let's raise everything up to it. I think everybody would kind of prefer bring back the power of everything else. But that's one reason I love Domain so much. It doesn't matter how good things are in advance. I'm going to build the Odion deck. I think I'm going to have a blast doing it. I'm going to build the XYZ deck. I think I'm going to have a blast playing, because I remember I played the XYZ Dragon Cannon deck way back, dude. It'll be fun either way. But yeah, that's all I got to say about the set. Is there anything you're specifically excited about that I didn't talk about? Do you guys like how I whipped up a couple decks really quick for the set discussion, so that you would have something to look at when I'm talking about what I would like to play in a Domain deck? Let me know down below. I love feedback. I take all feedback very seriously, especially the ones trying to dunk on me. But in all seriousness, thank you for watching. I appreciate you guys. Still working on getting the next gameplay out. It's a doozy of a game, to be honest. But until the next set comes out, I'll see you guys then.